Hello class, Mr. Garino here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make the cursor change between the two that we had started with in the beginning of our game. Since we've started that, even though I had you make two different cursors, or gunshot reticles, whatever you want to call them, um, we've only had the one incorporated in our game. So for me, here's my cursor up here. Whenever I play the game, that's my gun sight. But I did have you all, rather than just make a cursor, find the cursor on the internet and just edit it in Photoshop. So you should have two cursors in your game, and I told you could choose one or the other. But now I want to show you how to, rather have you choose one or the other for the game, have the game choose one or the other. So basically, randomly choose the cursor that's going to be used in the game. So right now, this cursor was inserted into a symbol called cursor. But if I'm going to have it randomly select the cursor, I'm going to need two different named cursors as far as the symbol goes. So this one over here, I'm going to right click on, go to properties, and I'm going to change the name over here and over here. Here it's really most important. Up here it doesn't really matter, but I'll do it the same way. So cursor with a capital C, because I created this one. And this one's going to have a capital C here too. And I'm going to say OK, and then say OK. And if you notice, the linkage name over here changes. So right now, if I play my game, it's not going to work because it's not going to find cursor C. It's looking for something just called cursor. Obviously, we're going to fix that. And we're going to go insert, new symbol. And this one we're going to call cursor E, as far as we edited it. That's a hard thing to say, edited it. And this should have a capital C over here. Probably should have named this with a capital C over here, but again, this doesn't really matter. And of course, make sure it's on movie clip, always movie clip. So now we're going to say OK, and then OK. But of course, this one's blank. So we're going to take this picture and drag it onto the screen. Try and center it over the plus sign. Also, this one looks a little bit bigger than the other one, so I'm going to go to my free transform tool and shrink that down some. Let me click away from that. I guess that looks pretty good. So then I'll go back to scene 1. So now I have two cursors. I have a cursor C and a cursor E, both as movie clip symbols. So now let me go into my code. And inside the initialize game function, we have over here cursor equals new cursor. So what we're going to do here, rather than just setting up a cursor, we're going to initiate a random generator, randomly generate a number. So we did this before with the position of where the monsters come out, somewhere around here, if you remember. Let's see. I don't know if it's in the monster movie clip or, oh, here it is. So the X position and the Y position were random around the stage width and height. So now we're going to randomly choose the cursor simply by doing this. Random number equals math dot floor, and then in parentheses math dot random, open close parentheses, and then we're going to multiply it. And I don't really have to do this. This is my preference, the way to do it. Multiply by 2. So whatever you multiply by, and then close parentheses, and then there's another closing parentheses, and then a semicolon. So what this random number generator is saying is, generate a random number. All random numbers, at least in Flash, and it's pretty common in programming, are going to go from 0 to just less than 1. So it never really hits 1. So 0.99999. So it can be 0 all the way up to 0.99999. So when I multiply a number from 0 to 0.999 whatever, times 2, I get numbers from 0, because 0 times 2 is 0, all the way up to a number that can approach 2 but never actually hit 2. When I say floor, that basically just means round it down. So if it's 0.2, it becomes 0. If it's 0.8, it still becomes 0 because you're always rounding down. So you don't round off 0.8 to 1. But as soon as you go over 1, so 1.05, that goes down to 1. 1.999, that goes down to 1. So this statement right here is going to generate numbers that are either that are either a 0 or a 1, not a 2, because when we multiply by 2 we never actually get to 2 because the randomly generated number never gets to 1. Okay, so either a 0 or a 1, which is nice because that's like digital computer stuff. So now I can say if, so I can use some conditionals to choose my cursor. So if random number, so this is my variable, and I guess I should have declared that variable. Yeah, definitely should declare that variable. And rather than declaring it over here, let me go up to my list of variables and declare it over there. So not with the sound stuff because that was all kind of special. So just underneath my whole list here, I'm going to say variable random number is an integer type variable and it's equal to 0. Well, I don't have to say it's equal to 0 because we're going to randomly generate it. So let's just say it's an integer. And then over here we're going to randomly generate it. And over here we're going to test it. If random number, and remember if we're testing to see if it's equal to, we don't just put one equal sign because that's the assignment variable. We put 2, that's the test. So if it's equal to 0, then we open close the curly braces and then we say this code right here, which I'm actually going to cut and put over here, but it's not cursor equals new cursor, it's got to be cursor equals new cursor C or E. So when it's 0, we're going to use the created one, and then use an else statement, else, and we don't have to test because if it's not 0, it's got to be 1, so there is no condition here. And then copy this and just change the C to an E. Okay, so if it's 0, we use the created cursor. If it's 1, we use the edited cursor. And then we go down to the rest of the code. So that right there should work nicely. Let's give it a try. And of course, before we do anything, we're going to save it. And I'll save it as a new name instead of Mr. G Shooter Game Audio Volume. I'm going to call it Mr. G Shooter Game Random Cursor. And click save. Oh, I did this before as a test, so I guess I'll say yes. And now if I play it. I'm waking up. Okay, that time it got the cursor we've been looking at. Let's see if it ever changes. Ah, there you go. So it's not going to choose one cursor one time and one cursor the other time. It's random. So you could get the red cursor 3 times in a row and then 2 of the purple and then back and forth a few times. It all kind of depends. That's what's meant by random. I'm waking up. Basically flipping back and forth each time. There we go. I just wanted to show you that you could get one of the cursors 2 times in a row. They actually don't use random generator computerized things for things like lottery and stuff like that, because what they notice is they're not always so random. Sometimes they kind of get stuck in a pattern, which is really weird, but I guess that's the functionality of that built-in function, the random generator. So if you ever watch things like lottery and picket and stuff like that, they usually got balls bouncing around or something that they try and make very random, and then they change the ping pong balls every so often because same sort of thing happens with that. So, and people try and predict things, and that's why they try and make it as random as possible. So they don't actually use these random generator numbers in a lot of high stakes type things. I don't know about slot machines, but obviously don't have ping pong balls in a slot machine. But that's how you do a random generator statement to choose your two different cursors, make the game a little bit more interesting. Thank you.